Most people think the hardest part of achieving something big is the skill itself, the talent, the resources, the opportunities. But for most of us, that's not actually the problem. The real problem is much quieter, much more invisible. It's the habit of waiting for the right mood, waiting for the right burst of inspiration, waiting for that rare morning when you wake up feeling ready. And the truth is, that day almost never comes on schedule. If you're in your teens or early 20s, this is especially dangerous because those years are your launch pad. The habits you build now will either push you forward for the next decade or keep you stuck replaying the same year over and over. You might think you have plenty of time, but time in your youth isn't just passing, it's compounding. Every skill you build now, every project you finish, every dollar you save multiplies in value over the years. And every day you waste waiting for the right time is a day you lose that compounding advantage. The trap is subtle. You tell yourself you're just giving yourself time to recharge, or that you'll do better when the mood is right. But what you've really done is handed control over to something that's unpredictable by nature. Motivation is not a constant. It comes and goes like the weather. It might pour in on a Monday, and by Tuesday, it's bone dry. And if your progress is tied to something so unstable, your work will always come in inconsistent bursts. Bursts that feel good in the moment, but vanish before they have a chance to build into something real. And when money is part of the equation, this waiting game gets even more dangerous. Bills, debts, and opportunities don't wait for you to feel ready. If you're building a business, trying to pay off loans, or saving for something important, every day you wait is a day the financial gap widens. The market moves, prices rise, competitors take the spot you could have filled. That delay doesn't just cost you time, it costs you potential income and long-term security. For teenagers and young adults, this could mean missing early investments, losing out on learning high-demand skills before the market changes, or staying in a low-paying job longer than necessary. The effects of this don't hit all at once. They creep in slowly. At first, you just miss a day or two, no big deal. But then the gap gets longer. That project you were excited about starts to feel like something you'll get back to eventually. And every time you stop for too long, you lose momentum. You lose the rhythm that made it easier to start. Soon, starting again feels harder than it ever did before. I call this the restart penalty, that mental resistance you feel because you've been away too long. And here's the worst part. Every restart feels heavier than the last. When you only work in inspired bursts, something else happens too. You start to romanticize the idea of doing the work instead of actually doing it. You become addicted to the feeling of wanting to create, but allergic to the days when that feeling isn't there. Ordinary, uninspired days start to feel heavier than they are. A simple task suddenly looks like a mountain because your brain is trained to expect emotional fuel before moving. And when that fuel isn't there, you stall. And in money terms, this is like waiting for the perfect investment or the perfect time to start a side hustle, only to watch opportunities pass by and costs stack up. The truth is, starting small and learning on the go builds not just income, but financial resilience. Those who take consistent, imperfect action often end up far ahead of those who wait for flawless timing. For younger people, this could mean taking on a part-time job that teaches you sales, freelancing online to learn marketing, or starting a digital store just to understand the process, even if it doesn't make you rich right away. Then comes the emotional toll. Every missed day builds guilt. And the more guilt you carry, the more you start to doubt yourself. You compare yourself to people who keep showing up, and the comparison stings. Not because they're more talented, but because they're more consistent. You start to wonder if you're really cut out for this, not realizing the only thing missing is the habit of starting even when you don't feel like it. But guilt doesn't just stay in your mind. It leaks into how you see yourself. You begin avoiding the work, not because you don't care anymore, but because facing it means facing how much time you've lost. You hesitate to share your progress publicly because deep down, you know you've been inconsistent. You tell yourself you'll get back on track soon, but soon becomes a moving target. And with money goals, this delay also leaks into your financial confidence. You start feeling like you're bad with money or that you'll never get ahead, when in reality, all you needed was consistent effort, making small savings deposits every week, pitching one extra client, or creating one new product at a time. The problem isn't your capability, it's the pauses. And for teenagers and early 20s, the earlier you overcome this, the sooner you can build a financial cushion that gives you freedom in your late 20s and beyond. And slowly, without even realizing it, your identity starts to shift. You stop seeing yourself as someone who shows up and start seeing yourself as someone who tries when they can. You start using phrases like, "I've been meaning to get back to it," or "I just haven't been feeling it lately." These sound harmless, but they're not. They're signals to your own mind that this isn't who you are anymore. You're just someone who dabbles. skills, and your actions begin to match that belief. Months go by. The projects you were once excited about still sit unfinished. The skills you wanted to master have barely moved forward. And the most painful part? You can see exactly what your life would look like if you had just shown up every day, even a little. But now there's a gap between that version of you and the one you're living. And with each week that passes, that gap gets wider. Eventually, you start to believe that maybe it's too late. Maybe you've fallen too far behind. Financially, this is where people fall into survival mode instead of growth mode. Instead of building assets, they're putting out fires, paying late fees, juggling overdue bills, missing investment windows, or staying stuck in jobs they hate because they can't afford to take risks anymore. All because they didn't take steady, small daily actions when they had the chance. For younger people, survival mode might not mean bills right now, but it could mean graduating with no skills, no network, and no savings, starting adulthood already behind. That's the quiet danger of waiting to feel ready. It doesn't just steal your time, it reshapes your identity. It leaves you further from your goals than you realize, not because you couldn't do it, but because you kept giving your progress permission to depend on something that never promised to be there when you needed it. And by the time you see it clearly, you've already lost more than you thought possible. Not just work, not just progress, but the belief that you're someone who shows up no matter what. The way out of this trap isn't to somehow summon endless motivation, because motivation was never the real driver in the first place. The real shift happens when you stop relying on moods and start building systems. Systems that make showing up the default, not the exception. The first step is lowering the activation energy. Most people make the start of work too heavy. They think they need to sit down for hours, produce something incredible, and feel amazing while doing it. Instead, you focus on the smallest possible action that moves you forward. Don't aim to write the chapter. Aim to open the document and write a single sentence. Don't aim to film the perfect video. Aim to set up the camera. These micro starts bypass the brain's resistance because they feel too small to reject. But once you begin, momentum takes over. And in money terms, this means starting with the smallest action too. Opening a savings account with $5, sending your first product pitch, making your first online listing. Don't wait until you can invest $1,000. Start with $10. The act of starting builds momentum, and momentum builds opportunity. For teenagers, this might be as simple as learning a profitable skill like graphic design, video editing, or coding, and taking your first client, even if the payment is small. For people in their early 20s, it could mean starting a side hustle now so it can grow alongside your main career. Next, anchor your work to time and place. The brain thrives on cues. If you sit down at the same desk at the same hour every day, your body starts to recognize this is what we do here. This removes the decision-making step, the should I work now or later, which is where most people lose time and energy. When the time comes, you just begin. No negotiation. You also need to remove friction from your environment. If your tools are buried in folders, your workspace is messy, or your setup takes 15 minutes to prepare, you've given yourself a dozen excuses before you even start. The less energy it takes to begin, the more likely you'll do it. Keep your gear ready. Keep your space clean. Treat your environment like an ally instead of a barrier. But there's a deeper piece: identity. You must decide at a core level that you are someone who shows up, not someone who tries when they feel like it, not someone who waits for perfect timing, but someone who works because that's who they are. You start speaking and thinking like this identity already exists. You don't say, I'm trying to be consistent. You say, I'm consistent. You don't say, I hope I can make time. You say, I make time. Every time you act in alignment with that identity, you reinforce it until it becomes natural. And that identity works for your finances too. You're not trying to save. You're a saver. You're not trying to earn. You're an earner. When you adopt that mindset, you stop seeing financial action as optional and start treating it as part of who you are. Another key is embracing the uninspired days. If you only work on good days, you're teaching yourself that bad days aren't for progress, and that belief will cost you years. Instead, you work anyway, even if the output is messy, because the habit isn't about perfection. It's about keeping the chain unbroken. Think of it like training a muscle. The real growth happens on the days when it feels heavy, when your brain says, not today, and you do it anyway. Those days are the ones that separate people who dabble from people who finish. Finally, track your streak, not your results. Results are slow, inconsistent, and sometimes invisible in the short term. A streak, however, is visible proof that you're doing the work. Seeing a 50-day or 100-day streak builds pride and momentum. It keeps you going when the results haven't shown up yet. And every day you show up, you're quietly compounding skill, discipline, and trust in yourself. So if you're listening to this right now, take it as your sign. No more waiting, no more when I'm ready. Your future self is counting on you to start today, even if it's small, even if it's messy. Every step you take now is building the life you keep dreaming about. And if you want more raw, real strategies to keep you moving forward in your goals, your money, and your mindset, hit that subscribe button and let's build it together.